Hi guys, I am so excited to show you my latest project, my lightsaber scarf. Today I'm going to show you how I created this beautiful easy color work pattern just using some graph paper, mostly scrap yarn, and then this beautiful galaxy inspired yarn. This pattern is super adaptable. For mine, I made an infinity scarf using 10 lightsabers, 2 lightsabers of each color, and then just seaming it together at the end. This pattern uses half double crochet the entire time, so only one stitch, and the color work is super beginner friendly. So join me as I show you how to make your very own lightsaber scarf. Hello, today I am going to be showing you how to make a lightsaber motif scarf. And I'm also just going to show you how I make motifs for color work in general. Something that you can apply to making pillows, to making baby blankets, scarves, anything your heart desires. So today I've got with me the colors that I need for my lightsaber scarf. This beautiful yarn from Knitted Wit has been in my stash for a long time, but it has always been destined to be a lightsaber scarf. So this is going to be my background color, the color that you're going to see in between the little lightsaber motifs. And then I've also got some gray, some black, and then I have my saber colors. So I've got this really pretty purple color, I've got red, green, yellow, and blue. Obviously you could choose as many or as few colors as you like for your own lightsaber motifs. We have a friend of ours who is a big Sith fan, so I'm sure if he commissioned one of these, it would all be in red. I also have with me my husband's lightsaber hilt because I needed something solid for inspiration. And then I have my sketch based on the hilt so that you can see I've got 15 different stitches that I'm going to be doing for the hilt itself, kind of following the same pattern that you see here, just a more abstract version. I've got them color coded. So the first two, I'm going to come a little bit closer so you can see. The first two are going to be black, and then we're going to have gray, black, gray, then 3 in a row that are gray, 3 in a row that are black, 3 in a row that are gray. For this, I will also be showing you how you can change colors so that it looks the same on the front and on the front and on the back. How to carry your yarn in those colors, and then when we get to the saber part, it's all going to be one color all the way through, which is really nice. I also have mine where you can see that there are 2 different rows that we're going to have for this. It's going to be a relatively skinny lightsaber, but you could of course make this as thick or as thin as you want. So for mine, if you add up how many I have for the hilt, which is 15 stitches, and how many I have for the saber, which is 20, I'm going to start with a base of 30 stitches. So let me get started with that right now. 15 stitches for the hilt and 20 for the saber. I also decided that I wanted about 5 rows in between each lightsaber, so that's what I've got right now. I'm about to finish my final row of the 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do my last 2, let it focus there, my last 2 half double crochets, yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull it up. Now, because I'm about to change the color for the lightsaber, I'm actually not going to be pulling up this yarn. So I'm going to clip it with my really cute little scissors right here. I'm going to clip it with a bit of a tail, that way I can weave that in later. And then at the base of my hilt, according to my motif, I'm going to be starting with the black yarn. So let me untangle this little bit of yarn barb. Or I will just cut that knot out. And then this is what I'm going to be using for my first color change. So I'm going to be taking my black yarn, the color that I'm switching to, going to pull it up through all 3 of my stitches, And then I'm also leaving a bit of a tail on my black yarn so that I can tie it off and weave in my ends. And when I do a half double crochet, I always chain up 2. Some people chain up 1. It's really just a personal preference. So with my working yarn, I'm going to chain up 2, and then I'm going to be doing 2 stitches with the black yarn, turning my work. I'm going to take the little black yarn tail and tuck it in right here. So you can see that. It's kind of hard to tell because right now my black yarn doesn't look too different from my background, but I'm going to be doing a stitch right here and then another stitch. Now I am now going to be switching to the gray yarn because I started with 2 black stitches, and then according to my chart the next one that I have is gray. So I'm going to take my gray yarn. I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I did when I changed it to the black yarn at the end of the row, and I'm just going to be looping it over, if I can get it all straightened up, looping it over like this and then pulling it all the way up. That way my color change is nice and neat. And now I'm working with the gray yarn. So the biggest thing that I think worries people when they do a lot of color changes like we're doing on the hilt is carrying the yarn, which is what I'm going to show you right now. So we want to work with the gray right now, but we want to be able to pull up this black yarn when we switch back to it because we're only doing 1 stitch of gray right here. So I'm going to do my stitch of gray just like this, and I'm going to kind of tuck the extra gray that I have as well as the black behind my loop right there, and then I'm going to be picking up the black. Nope. So I have just changed to the gray colorway right here, and so now I'm going to do my stitch, yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, but because I'm only doing 1 stitch in the gray, I'm actually going to be pulling up the same black that I had before, if I can locate it, the same one that I used to do these 2 stitches, and pulling up a loop there instead. My gray, I'm going to kind of tuck behind. As you're working your stitches over the color that you are not doing, so like with this gray, we've got a little bit of black tucked in there, but when we finish these stitches on either side, you're going to be able to see that they're going to look the same. So my next stitch is black. I'm going to do that. Again, I'm tucking this yarn behind. Going to do my stitch right over that gray, pull that up. We're switching back to gray. Just like that. And then with our black, we're going to pull that down a little bit so that that stitch isn't crazy. We're going to go back to gray, pulling that loop up, and then switching it to black, pulling the gray strand, doing a black stitch, again keeping this strand behind, pulling up the gray. Now, so far we've got 2 black on the bottom, a gray, a black, a gray, a black. Looking at my chart, the next 3 stitches are going to be gray. So let me pull out a little bit more yarn to work with. And as you can see, except for this little guy, which we're going to be tucking in, it's going to look the same on the front as the back. So with these next 3 stitches, they're all gray stitches, and we're just going to be hiding this black yarn in there. So we're going to do 1, again keeping this black yarn tucked in, 2, and 3. Now because this is our last stitch of gray, we're going to switch it back to black. It looks like we're doing 3 black stitches in a row, and this time we'll be tucking the gray in between our stitches. So we've got 1, 2, here's the for real 2, and 3, and then we're ending with 2 gray stitches. Now because this is the end of the hilt part, we actually don't have to tuck in the black the way that we've been doing in between our stitches. We're going to be picking that back up when we return and do the second row of our lightsaber. So this time you don't have to tuck the gray in. We're just going to finish it off with 2 gray stitches. 1 and 2. Now we're going to be switching to our lightsaber color. So I've decided to start with the green. One, to make sure that this is actually enough green yarn to make this green lightsaber. This is, I think, the only yarn I didn't buy specifically for this project because this was leftovers, but it was just the right shade of green. So again, and when I changed colors, I just pulled up a loop right before I started my next stitch. Now, from this point all the way to the end until we come back to the hilt, we're not changing any colors, we're not doing anything crazy, we're just crocheting with green. So we're going to go down our line all the way to the end, and then we will be chaining 2. As you can see, I'm kind of taking the end of the yarn and tucking it in. That way I don't have to weave it in later, the way I will with some of the other ones down there. Once I get to the end of the row, I'm just going to be chaining 2, and I will meet you right back here when we get to the hilt. And then that was my last black stitch. I'm going to switch it back to the gray. We've got 3 gray stitches. We're going to be carrying the black right there. And then we're going to get to the part where we alternate back and forth. My last gray stitch, I'm going to take that black, pull it forward, black stitch, hiding that gray. Whoop. Black stitch, hiding the gray, and then pulling up the gray. And then gray stitch, hiding the black, and then pulling up the black. This black stitch, gray stitch, and then we're going to be ending with a black so we don't have to carry that gray anymore. 2 black stitches to the end, and then because that was the end of our first lightsaber, I'm going to be clipping that black as well as the gray. Again, leaving myself a little bit to weave in. I can actually go ahead and clip that green as well. So I'm going to be switching back to my beautiful kind of galaxy colorway. Pulling that up, chaining 2, and then just going right back at it. And then I'm going to do as many rows as I want in between my lightsabers. For me, I chose to do 5 rows in between lightsabers. Now, before you ask, what am I supposed to do with all these crazy ends? Let me show you how I do it. There's lots of different ways. A lot of people will use tapestry needles to weave in their ends. Some people knot their ends, some people don't. I do. So let me show you how I do mine. So this was the first little black yarn that we had. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert my hook into a black stitch, yarn it over, pull it through, and then make a little knot or two at the very base of the stitch. And then you can either pull it through a stitch and then clip it, or because this is so tiny and it's amidst a bunch of other dark colors, I'm just gonna clip it where it is. Because I've knotted it, I'm not worried about it coming undone or anything like that. And then right here, we've got some gray. I'm gonna do the same thing. So there's not a huge rhyme or reason. You're just gonna go into a gray stitch. You're going to be pulling up your yarn. Might not have left myself enough of a tail on this one. And then just making a little knot at the base of it. What this does is it kind of camouflages where your knots are if they are on top of the same color that you just worked on. And I'm going to do this with all of the little color changes that I have. What's really nice about this pattern is that you've got spaces in between colors, and you are kind of starting over your color work. That took a lot longer than I anticipated. You're starting over your color work every time you start a new lightsaber. Ta-da! She's finished! What I did was I took this little strip that we have repeated, the part that I showed you on the graph paper, where you have 2 black stitches, 1 gray, 1 black, 1 gray, 1 black, 3 gray, 3 black, 2 gray, and the rest, the lightsaber color. I took that motif, I separated it by 5 rows in between each lightsaber, and then I just did each lightsaber color that I had twice. So I've got 10 lightsaber colors, or 10 lightsabers total from top to bottom. And then I used all of this sparkly galaxy print yarn that I had until I ran out. So it wasn't quite long enough for a traditional scarf. So I just seamed it up so that I can wear it as an infinity scarf. I also blocked the scarf, which just means that I got it into some wool wash, let it soak for a little while, and then let it dry overnight. So it's got a little bit more drape than it would if I hadn't blocked it, and also means it's a little bit longer. So the whole back side is just that really pretty knitted wit pixie plied yarn, and then the front has these 10 lightsabers. Like I said at the beginning, all of this is half double crochet, so it's just one stitch that you're using the whole time, and you're doing that same motif that we sketched out with the graph paper over and over again. Now, if you like this for a scarf and want to use it exactly, go for it. I think it looks great. You could also have done 5 lightsaber colors on one side, had more yarn than I did, and then made a traditional scarf, do 5 on the other side. That would have looked really cute. But you can also take out your graph paper, use kind of a similar proportion to, like, the blade is about this long, or the hilt is about this long, the blade is about this long, and then use that same design for pillows, baby blankets, whatever your heart desires. So grab some graph paper and start designing. I hope you enjoy this video. I very much enjoyed making this scarf, and I'll see you next time.